Good evening, everyone. We are going to start shortly. We're just waiting for everyone to join, and then we'll start in 1 or 2 minutes. Okay, so I guess before we start, I'd just like to say good evening to everyone, and thank you so much for taking the time to be here tonight. We really appreciate it. And really a huge thank you to all of you for registering and for signing up, and especially for sending it out to those who could really benefit from the webinar. We really appreciate it, and we are so excited to share what Stratfin does and how we can hopefully help each and every one of you. Ilan Rabinovitz, our CEO, will be running the webinar tonight. It's an honor and a privilege to have him here and to hear him tell you all about medical tax refunds. And we will then have a Q&A at the end. So please keep your questions. Feel free to send them through to the chat, and we'll address them at the end. Thank you so much. And thank you, Ilan. We're ready to begin when you are.
Thank you, Jade. My name's Ilan Rabinowitz, and I'm one of the directors and founders of Stratfin Solutions. I'm standing in for Dovi Blumenau tonight, and I'm going to be discussing with you the topic of medical aid tax refunds. It's really one of my favorite topics. I benefit from it, and I'm going to show you guys how you can also benefit. And it could be that you've actually missed out on an unbelievable tax benefit that SARS has given us in this country. And so we entitled this webinar, Stop Missing Out on Medical Aid Refunds. As part of tonight, we're going to be discussing what you can claim, who qualifies, and how we as Stratfin can help you tap into the medical aid tax refunds and medical aid tax credits. So just a little bit about Stratfin Solutions. We're a company that focuses on unlocking hidden tax refunds. We have different products and solutions, depending if you're a business or individual taxpayer. Most of our work is done on a success fee basis. And so there's no upfront costs for the work that we do. If we are successful for you, then you benefit, and then we also benefit. One of our favorite products that we have is the medical aid tax refunds, and that's what you're going to be discussing tonight. And we're going to show you exactly how you can tap into it and how we can also help you maximize those medical tax refunds. Okay, so a little bit about how this works. And tonight's webinar is focused for schools and parents of individuals who have learning difficulties, students of specialized or remedial schools. And I'm going to explain to you how the medical rebate works when you submit your tax return. So now the season of tax returns has just opened a couple of weeks back, and everyone's rushing to try and do their tax returns. And one of the benefits that SARS gives us is that if we are on a medical aid, then there's something called a Section 6A benefit. And what that does, that Section 6A benefit or credit, is that if you're on a medical aid, for every person that is on the medical aid, the main member and any of their dependents, you will get a fixed amount per month as a rebate on your total tax bill. The amount varies. It's between like 150 or 300 Rand per person. And that amount will automatically be given to you in your tax return if you are part of a medical aid. Now, I'm saying a medical aid and not a hospital plan. There is another section, and that is called a Section 6B. And what Section 6B does is that if you qualify, then SARS will give you an additional rebate or credit on your income tax return for your medical expenses. Now, what's quite fascinating is that your medical expenses relate to, number one, your contributions that you make on your medical aid every single month. That's your medical aid premiums. And then sometimes when it comes to medical aid, there are out-of-pocket expenses. Your medical aid doesn't always cover all your costs, so you have out-of-pocket expenses. What Section 6B does is that it gives you potentially another rebate or refund or credit based on your total costs that you have for medical. So just to confirm, Section 6A is like a fixed amount. It doesn't change depending on how many dependents you have on your medical aid. And Section 6B, that rebate or credit will be based on several factors. How much you spend on medical aid on a monthly basis, how much your out-of-pocket spend is, and also, it depends on how much you earn. And what happens is that the more you earn, usually your Section 6B is reduced, which is quite fascinating. So the more money you earn, the less Section 6B credit you get. However, to skip to slide, there is some magic that happens in the Section 6B. So if we go back to Section 6B, we're going to be discussing this section for the rest of this webinar. So what SARS have done is that for those families that have somebody in the family who qualifies, they have a medical condition that qualifies, then the Section 6B credit actually increases quite substantially. It doesn't go down, it actually increases. SARS gives an exponential refund on that Section 6B credit. And how do you qualify for that? Well, if SARS gives 6 different categories of medical conditions that would qualify a taxpayer to tap into that additional medical tax credit. And those conditions fall into the following 6 categories. So if you have somebody in your family, it could be the main member, their spouse, or any of the children or dependents in the family has an intellectual, a difficulty, a problem with vision or communication, any type of physical, mental, or hearing condition that will or has or they have experienced for 12 months and will continue, and it affects a person on a day-to-day basis, okay, then the main member will qualify for the exponential Section 6B allowance. Okay, so there's 6 different categories that you qualify. I'm going to go through some of the conditions that we found in our, with our clients. For example, under physical, we found obviously if somebody's missing a limb, they're in a wheelchair, but not only that, if they suffer from any physical condition, we've seen cancers and different conditions that affect people's day-to-day, they have diseases, communication. We've seen people who stutter, visions, if one of the eyes or both eyes are very weak, uh, then you actually qualify. Hearing, if a person has a hearing aid. Mental, if a person has anxiety or depression or bipolar. All of these different conditions qualify a person to get the huge benefits that comes with the Section 6B allowance. Okay, let me give you an example that I actually experienced myself. So one of my children has ADHD and is on medication for that. When I submit my tax return, I would get a Section 6A allowance or benefit of about 10 or 15,000 Rand. Because my child meets the requirements of this mental condition, my Section 6B benefit goes from around 5,000 Rand a year to about 40,000 or even 50,000 Rand. So the the benefit of having somebody in the family that qualifies for one of these conditions will boost your refund, and in my case, from about to 60, 50 or 60,000 Rand, actually is about a 40,000 Rand difference because of my medical expenses. Now, that Section 6B, the total 6A and 6B that you can actually claim, works out to be about 33% of my total medical expenses. So my medical expenses that I can get a rebate or refund back from SARS include my medical aid contributions, all my school fees that I would pay if my child goes to remedial or specialized school, any travel that I incur to get my child to school and back, and any out-of-pocket expenses. Let's say, for example, my child needs a tutor or a facilitator, or my parent needs a nurse, somebody to look after them. Those are the kind of expenses that I'm allowed to lump together when claiming my rebate or refund on my medical expenses when I submit my tax return. And what SARS does is that it will pay out approximately 33% of all those expenses back to me as a rebate and potentially a refund. So what it boils down to is for every Rand that I spend on medical expenses, SARS will potentially refund or rebate to me 33 cents. What sets us apart is that we at Stratfin really understand the process and how you can claim this rebate from SARS. What we do, which is very unique, is that we are able to go back to SARS and say, if we haven't claimed this rebate before, is to say to them that we haven't claimed it, we didn't know about it potentially, and if we qualify, we can go back to SARS and claim back for the last 3 years. Even though our tax returns have been submitted, we can go and claim back for the last 3 years. So in my case, if I were to get an extra 40,000 Rand a year, I would now be able to get an extra 120,000 Rand back from SARS. What we do is we focus on every single case specifically, and we try and maximize the medical rebates that we get back, as well as the education side of the medical expenses. So if your child does go to a remedial or specialized school, we try and maximize the amount that you'll be able to get back from SARS for that expenditure. Furthermore, we've got a large team of over 20 people where we're able to streamline the process. It is a very complex process to not only claim the rebate from SARS, but certainly to go back and claim prior years. And even for the current years, there are quite a lot of hoops that you have to jump through and um, boxes that you have to tick. See, hopefully will stay online. So the average claims are between 50 to 150,000 rand, and in many cases even more than that. To claim this benefit, you don't have to leave your current accountant or tax practitioner. We work in tandem with them, and are happy to give you the advice, do the claim for you, and then you can continue with your tax with your current tax practitioner. Um, so a couple of other points that I wanted to mention is that you don't have to be on a medical aid in order to claim this Section 6B. So even if you're on a hospital, not a hospital plan, a medical insurance, then you can still claim this benefit. And any expenses that you incur, for example, paying for school fees for a child who has one of these medical conditions, would actually qualify for the Section 6B claim. In addition, if you are paying the medical aid for anyone else in your family that is dependent on you, you can also claim for their medical aid and potentially also get the Section 6B additional claim. We do many of these submissions on a daily basis, and I really urge you, if you haven't done it, it's really one of the best benefits that SARS is giving us as taxpayers. We all know that having a child or having somebody in the family who needs special medical attention can be very expensive. And so this is one of the ways that SARS, the government, is helping us benefit, is giving us monetary compensation. And so we would really love to help you get that if you're not able to do it yourself. In addition, just a little bit about our fees. So I mentioned in the beginning that our fees are success-based, and we charge a rate of 20% of the extra amount that we get for you. So that will be the extra amount that we get for you should we be able to claim the 6B additional claim. All right. So if you would normally get, say, 10 or 15,000 rand back from SARS, we wouldn't charge any success fee on that. It's only on the additional claim that we get. There are a couple of questions that are in the Q&A. Jade, I don't know if you're going to read them or if I
Yeah, for
should
sure.
start reading the
Um,
questions.
so I'm happy to just I'll address some of them to you. So someone would like to know if they have a hospital plan, can they benefit?
So good question. So the sections, yeah, if they have a hospital plan, then you can certainly benefit on both options. Uh,
Sorry, everyone. It seems like we have lost Ilan. Let's just try and get him back so we can continue with this Q&A. In the meantime, there are some questions that I am answering um, through typing, so you'll see that come up on the chat.
Jade, have you run into a problem?
Ilan has just, his internet's not great. I think
Great,
he's been cut
I
off.
can take over, no problem. You want to
Okay,
go for it,
perfect. Do you
Jade?
want to just, yeah, I think let's just go through some of the questions that we have.
Mm.
If a child was only diagnosed with dyslexia last year but was receiving OT and reading lessons at a reading center in previous years, can we go back and claim for those now?
So that's an excellent question. And what I've actually seen is that SARS are not actually so focused on the diagnosis. They're more focused on was a child affected in their day-to-day life with a medical condition resulting in OT, in classroom struggles and all of that. And that is really enough. As long as you get an OT to sign that the child has previously been struggling, even though the diagnosis only came at a later point, that would actually be fine.
Okay, amazing. The
Good.
next question we have, in terms of the conditions, can we only claim back from the date that they're diagnosed?
So it's a similar answer to before, and that is that you can claim back from when the person was first struggling. So even though there wasn't a formal diagnosis, as long as there's a medical practitioner, and in many cases even an OT or a speech therapist could be good enough to confirm that the child was struggling beforehand, and that would result in a claim. So yeah, definitely.
Great. I've already submitted my tax for this year and I've been assessed. Must I wait until next year's return to apply for the Section 6A or B rebate?
So, good point. As Elan mentioned, that Stratfin operates any time of the year. We do backdated claims. That's one of our unique services, and therefore never wait and always go and open up and see what could have been done, and and then you'll be surprised to see how much money has been left on the table, and Stratfin can help with claiming that money back. So if you've already submitted your 2026 return, perfect, let that go through. It does take time anyway to collect the right documents and all of that, get your refund, and then hand it over to someone on our team. We'll then do the cleanup on 2026, do 25, 24, sometimes even 23, and then yeah, and then moving forward, it will be done correctly the first time.
Great. This is a very interesting question, Dorvi. Can you claim for these benefits if school fees are being paid for through a company?
Excellent question. I see we've got Ilan back with us. I think, Ilan. Okay, I think he's struggling with his internet. So the answer to that, Jade, is that it all depends how the company has structured it. If the company are giving it to you as a benefit on your pay slip, and you're being taxed for that benefit, then you can claim back that money. But if they're not giving it to you and it's not showing on your pay slip, and therefore you're not being taxed for that, then you will not be you'll not be able to claim that amount.
Okay, amazing.
Similarly, if the companies are paying for medical aid, that's the same sort of thing. In most cases, the companies are putting that as a benefit in the pay slip, and then you would be able to claim back on that benefit that you're getting from the company.
Okay, perfect. Someone said, thank you for this informative webinar. I wanted to ask whether Section 6B is a relatively new incorporation.
Ilan, how old is Section 6B?
Dovi, probably about 10, 15 years longer. So it has been around. It did change around about 2012, I think.
Okay,
Formulas
great.
changed, but yeah, it's been around.
If medical aid is subsidized, will they still be able to claim?
100%. Whatever money you paying towards your medical aid, that will be eligible for claims. So definitely that will be claimable.
Okay, great. Um, there's so many good questions. I'm just Yeah,
It's
there's a
always
few.
like it, AJ.
I just want to address one question that I've seen come up about 5 or 6 times. A lot of people are saying one spouse is the main member of the medical aid, but the other spouse is paying for all the out-of-pocket expenses. So the way that you claim is you claim through who is paying for the medical aid for the child. So in that case, it would be the husband who is the main member. We would claim back through his medical aid. That question's
Uh,
come up
Yeah,
quite a
it's
bit.
a good point. We really deal with this case by case. Oftentimes, we'll do two separate claims, but what we most often do is we try to do the whole claim in the one spouse's name, especially if there's transactions between the spouse's accounts, and then we can say that that was for that medical spend. So normally we'd try in the one spouse's name, even if it's rejected by SARS, then we would open up another claim in the other spouse, especially if it's something significant. Like, for example, oftentimes the one spouse is paying for school fees and the other spouse paying for medical aid, then we will do two different claims. And also sometimes what we've seen is that the the family is split between who's on whose medical aid, and really we'll look at a case by case and we'll see where we can get the most favorable outcome, and we'll push with that spouse. There has been times, Jay, this is actually um, you might not remember, it was a number of years ago, where we were able to reverse what would happen in the one spouse's name, and the one spouse was getting close to nothing in their tax return because weren't paying much tax, and we reversed what happened in that spouse and put it in the spouse that was earning, and we managed to recover about 450,000 rand. So yeah, you really do need to know what you're doing when moving around different spouses. Jade, another question which I'm seeing a lot, and maybe we can ask us to Ilan, is what degree of ADHD, learning challenges, anxiety would qualify for these rebates?
So the requirement is it needs to be moderate to severe. So mild anxiety would not qualify. And there's a specific GAF, Global Assessment Functioning Level, of being 60 or less for you to be or to have a moderate condition. So your clinical psychologist or psychiatrist will be able to assess it and then be able to sign off the forms for us, and that will allow us to claim from SARS.
Yeah. Although, Ilan, it is important to note that we have seen a lot of um, miseducation, even among psychiatrists, on what does qualify. And because the form says on the form disability, they often don't take the time to educate themselves in the examples that SARS define as disability. So they would say, well, the person's not bedridden, the person's not, not. He's still in school, still getting through school, and therefore won't qualify. Whereas those which actually take the time to educate themselves, even amongst the medical professionals, they actually stop and say, 1 second, SARS is looking for a moderate to severe limitation, moderate as opposed to mild, but also moderate does not have to be severe. So that's, yeah, I think that's quite important to note.
Another really good
Sometimes,
question. Oh,
sorry, we
sorry.
found that if your doctor is not keen to sign off the forms that you require, then in some cases we can speak to the doctor, explain to them, reference other cases that have been accepted by SARS, and then um, educate them, as you say, Dobby, to ensure that if you do qualify, then you can really apply. At the end of the day, really, it's up to the doctor to sign off the particular forms that we need, the RTRDD, as well as SARS accepting that the condition meets their criteria.
Great.
Excellent
Um,
point.
can I claim 33% of claims submitted to a medical aid, but reject or only 33% of claims not submitted to medical aid at all?
So the way it works is that any money that you spent, whether that's on your medical aid premium or the out-of-pocket expenses which medical aid didn't cover, that's claimable. If the medical aid covered the expense, that's obviously not an expense which you can then claim back on, but you did pay for the medical aid, and that would be a claimable expense. I spotted quite an interesting question, yeah. Now misplaced it. Give me 1 second. Um, Here we go. If someone has a child in a mainstream school, so it's not a remedial school, so obviously the school fees won't be claimable, but is now paying for a facilitator. And we know how much a facilitator can accumulate to. Can that be claimed? Jade, what have you seen on that
So
from a facilitator?
if for facilitator, usually SARS does accept that. If we obviously get a letter from the school stating, that they know the child had a facilitator, that they accepted there was a facilitator and that the child was in need of one in order to, function at a school level. It hasn't been an issue thus far, as long as we can, have our backup with us to, justify why we had the facilitator and that the child obviously really needed us in order to, continue with their studies. So up until now, it hasn't been a problem. But as Dorvi said, which I think is so important to note, and that's with a lot of the questions that are coming up, it really is on a case by case basis. So I hate that, that we give like a one answer fits all, because it's really not. Every single person's case is different. Everyone, you could have 5 people who have children with ADHD, but the cases are also different and so diverse. So I think it all just depends, and I think that's where we come in and where we are really able to help. If you get in touch with us, explain your case to us, and then we can take it from there. Yeah, I think that's the best answer that I can give
Amazing.
you.
Amazing. One point which I think worth clarifying, which will answer a number of the questions, and obviously we do apologize for not getting to all the questions. There will be a WhatsApp which will go out later, which if you just follow the prompts there, you will be assisted by someone on the team, and we really have quite a large team, about 20 of us, all very well educated in the space, and you will be reached out to. Might not be tomorrow, but over the course of the coming few days, someone will reach out to you if you just follow the prompts on the WhatsApp. But something which we'll clarify is that it doesn't matter how many people on the family are struggling with the medical condition. One person in the family will change the formula for the whole family, and then they will access uh, the additional rebates which we were talking about. Important to note that if you're claiming for school fees, because school fees isn't commonly a medical condition, and now it's remedial schooling, and you would like that to qualify for as a medical condition, that's the only time you'll need more than one RTRDD if there are more than one child in the remedial school, and that's when we'll help you and guide you on as to uh, how many medical aid forms you'll uh, sorry, how many SARS medical forms you'll need, and also if there are multiple people, we do know what SARS most often accept, and then we'll guide you as to who to claim under in the family. Ilan, before we close tonight, anything that you feel that still needs to be clarified, or a question that you spotted?
One or two people have asked, what happens if two people in the family have the medical condition, similar to the question you asked? Do you only get 33% back for the one member and not for the other? So the answer there is that 33%, special dispensation or extra benefit that you get is for the whole family. So it's the whole family's medical aid contribution and out-of-pocket expenses. So even if one person in the family qualifies, then really it's the main member will get that medical benefit back from SARS. So I think the question was somebody has a hearing issue and the person in the family has depression. You don't have to claim for both. We just need to claim for one, and then the maximum claim can be achieved.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Jade, for putting us together. I'm glad I
Thank
walked
you.
past my laptop. I actually had a baby the other day, so I'm a little bit all over the show, and my older kids are giggling in the background, but I'm glad I walked past just as there was silence and I could step in. Ilan, we're wishing your internet a full recovery. We've never had this issue before, am I right?
Yeah, never before. I'm actually using like backup my phone just to connect. Okay.
Uh,
Thank you,
Good.
everyone, and we look forward to helping you.
Thank you. Thank you. Cheers, guys.